Hey everyone, so last time we were discussing about type of prompting, right? Like we did discuss about a zero shot prompting and a one shot prompting, and then we went into an example of like, okay, how do I format a trace route result to our advantage with few shot prompting? Like we did see, like, okay, what examples, what format can be given for this to happen. Then I was supposed to go on to something called the COT, chain of thought. But then it struck to me, okay, I've illustrated the trace route example, but how do I even demonstrate something like this for a real world use case? Now, most of the times, whatever we are seeing around us, the main problem being people hype the technology, and some of them, for example, take AI and agents. Most of the people would convince us about the power of AI agent and some of the frameworks, but no one would like let us know like how do we even start with something like that, right? For example, if we had a trace route and if we had an application to summarize the trace route, what do we even do with something like that? How do we even start programming and thinking about something like that? So I was about to do it at the end of the prompting, but then I thought, okay, first I'll have to introduce this in the middle and then like take it forward with the other aspects of like the prompt, this thing. This will take couple of sessions, but I deliberately split the sessions into two parts. For people who are not comfortable with the way they are coding, or if they are starting into the coding, or for the ones who know like how to code, but then you have to understand how Gemini responds back. I'm using Gemini because there are two things. It's unbelievably free with the amount of tokens and with the amount of API access that they're giving. You can literally like get away, even a small business can get away with that sort of free giveaway, right? So, and it's very flexible. Like I have seen a lot of frameworks, but I think this is the one which is like completely gets the programmer mindset for someone who is starting. Like you don't need to know what an agent, you don't need to know like what call and stuff. There are some aspects of it, but we'll try to do, and with the help of vibe coding we'll even reduce it. You'll just see like how fast we'll write the code today. Now if you see, like this is officially from the Gemini, the Google web page. Now if you see here, the prompt that okay, do I have a pointer or something? Okay, so you define a function, it gets an answer, but if you see the LLM tries to respond to it, it doesn't make sense. Now we'll start seeing it with the trace route code. Now it has the ability to give the function name argument, and again it can give a prompt. So all of this can go on and on. Now what do I mean by function and a prompt, and how do we get this? We'll see an example. What's the function calling, by the way? So helps you connect external tools. For example, yesterday we were seeing we manually gave the trace route output, and then it was like giving some sense back to us with the format and stuff. Now how do I make it integrated? So let's say if I say Python help my trace route 1111. So inherently what it should happen is like the LLM should know that it has to use a trace route function, get the output, parse the output and give it back to us. And this should happen, right? So, and when you ask, like if you go to ChatGPT and ask like what's trace route for 1111, obviously like it won't be able to do. Even if it did, it would do it from its own server or its own system. Now you have to do it from your own LAN, for example, right? So something has to be there, a function which can call the trace route get the output and then use the LLM to like parse the particular condition, right? So helps you connect external tools. Model is capable of understanding the context and will call the tool. Now, technically, like you can write it as two blocks. One, execute the function, give it to the LLM, and then it does it. But at an input level, let's say, what's the trace root of 1111 or find the trace root of 1111? This will convert, like if a human sees it, obviously we know two things. One, it's a trace root. Second, the trace root is going for 1.1.1.1. These two things can be interpreted by LLM and then it will give the function required parameters automatically. We don't have to do anything. So it gives the context. So we'll write this add x comma y very shortly, and you'll see like how fast we can spin up the code. This helps you connect, let's say, router API, database, any system which is within your enterprise, any system which is within your LAN, any system which is like an API driven one. Get the result from it and then like use LLM to do whatever you want to, like convert something like that. You can integrate Google search, you can integrate like Perplexity, you can get any of the tool and then integrate it into another LLM. Model can now take actions and invoke tools without we having to go through a lot of conditional logic. Like, obviously, like if you had like 6-7 tools, it only makes sense that someone takes a decision on when to use which tool. It's a bit complicated concept, but we'll come back to it. So this is like the first part of it, where function calling, we'll just start with it. So again, we'll go to the multi-shot prompting example. We had seen a traceroute. Now I'll show you an example of how the traceroute would happen. Now don't worry about how is this happening and stuff, but let's concentrate on, let's say, Python. That's my traceroute function, and I'll say I want to go to all 8s. So this is saving me the time to execute the traceroute, and also if you remember the previous day's instruction, we wanted a table, we wanted some summarization, we wanted an observation, and that's there already. If you wanted to see like a bit of verbose on how it's happening, so the first call is like, the first request will go to Gemini. It says like run a traceroute to all 8s. Then Gemini requested the function. We built a function called run traceroute. The function arguments was like pretty simple, right? So if you see, the host name is the only argument. I can build in the hops and stuff, but I don't want to complicate for now. So it executes the traceroute. Now it sends back to Gemini. Gemini formats it on how we want the particular thing, and then like finally we get it. Now let's quickly go through the arrangement here, right? So I defined a function. Then the declaration is there. We'll just code it now. So initially it goes to Gemini, and then there is a conditional logic. This is where it formats everything, and then again it sends to Gemini, and that's where it gets like condition and stuff. Now we'll go step by step so that you can build your own functionality. You don't have to copy the code, nor you have to do anything. With the power of vibe coding, understand what's the function block, what's the purpose of it, so that you can build whatever you want, right? Now let's try to generalize this. So let's say we want to build a very simple code which can add 2 numbers, but it's not doing it inherently, but it is using our function to do it. So let's say 2 numbers dot py, right? So this will be using Gemini Function Calling, right? So I'm not doing anything, as you can see, like I'm using cursor and it's trying to help me out with the coding. So it imported some basic modules, one Gen AI types and then like Gen AI. We'll see why we are using it. So I had two numbers. It adds two numbers. So it gave me args, it gave me returns, it returns a dictionary, and that's about it. Now, let's define the function declaration. Now, this is where is the second part of it, where you'll see like you'll give context to the LLM, and okay, let me remove this. Okay, you'll give context to the LLM. You'll say, okay, which function to add, what's the description of it, what are the parameters, which are A and B to add two numbers, and then how are they required. As you like write more functions, we will go into more in-depth analysis of it. For now, imagine that you have written a normal Python function which adds two numbers. Now you're writing an extension to this function which will communicate to the LLM on when it can use the function. So the context that it can use the function is like when it tries to add two numbers. Okay, fantastic. Now you have the context, you have the function, you have to now start associating it as a tool and then like put into the configuration. So let's define tool and config. So that's my tool, that's my config. Have a simple prompt. You can like automate the prompt. You can see like add the numbers 5, for example. We have to now define the client. So we'll say client equal to Gen AI client I have an API key, right? Now we'll create response object. So this will actually go and make the first call to the Gemini, right? Again, as you can see, I'm not coding any of this. This is something that I'm using the power of cursor, which is helping me to code. You have to understand like how we are building things. I only know like what are the gluing aspects of it. I know that I have to first define the function. I know that I have to do the declaration. I then have to associate the declaration with the tools and config, give a basic prompt to it, then invoke a client to Gemini, and then like the response, in the response, how you get it is like you generate the content where you will pass the model name, you give the prompt, and you do the config. The config will have the tool and stuff. Now, interestingly, this is phase 1 of it, right? Let's print the response. So we'll have like a separate video on how to interpret this particular one. So it contacted Gemini here, and if you see, let's say, I think the screen is much better. Yeah, so if you see, like we got a response. It's a typical Google object response where it said like there is a function call, and within the function call my arguments are like A5 and B3. That's where like it went, right? So add the numbers 5 and 3. So it immediately recognized it. So it knows that it needs to do a function call, and it also knows like what arguments that I have passed, right? So after this, we saw the response, right? Now let's take this function call and then say like, okay, you detected that you need to call a function. Now what do we do about it? We'll dive deep into it. For now, let's explore the vibe coding beauty, right? So here I'll say, if a function call is detected, take the args and function name first, right? So it says, yeah, if it is there, it is so and so. So let me remove this one. So fantastic. So it took like, it knows that now it has to add two numbers as a function, and its function arguments are so and so. Fantastic. Now what we'll do, we know that it has detected it. So that's our result, right? We're not done here yet. So now we'll say, oh, this is beautiful. So we have the result. Technically we are done. But if I had to add more instructions to it, so now I can again pretend to start and recall the Gemini exactly from like how we did it from the start. So I'll give the result is a function of this is the result of a function call. Okay. And the final response is like, again, generate content, use the Gemini, use the formatting instruction. In the type start part, we'll explore this in the next video. This is the message which conveys that this is not a new thing that Gemini is looking into. It is a result of a previous function call. And finally, we'll print the result. So we can see like the sum of 5 and 3 is 8. Now let's take it very slowly. Now the reason why we need function calling, I didn't code. As you can see, I didn't even code, and this is possible for everyone. Just understand like the coding can be done by the AI. We have to understand how do we need to write the code in a way that it can help us achieve different tooling aspects of it. So first write your normal function. It can be a traceroute function. Then add the function declaration. Configure the function declaration into tools and config. Give it a prompt. It can be a generalized prompt or it can be a static prompt. Capture the response, and if the response identifies that there is a function call, take the name, take the arguments, pass it to the function, and once you have the result, you can repeat the same exercise and modify it however you want. This is exactly what the traceroute function did. It first identified that it needs a traceroute. It then passed the parameters to the traceroute function. Once it got the result, we resent it to Gemini with a new format of table, observation, and some key aspects, and then it reformatted it for us. So it is very, very powerful to do. And the next video, once we are done with the chain of thought, I'll revisit like how do you construct it with a couple of more examples so that you can get into building these things by yourself. Thank you so much.